And I want you to, and the reason why I bring that up is because, you would think that it's absolutely absurd, right? And crazy that there was ever a time that someone would actually go and pollute and throw trash out their window and pollute, one of the most amazing places on the planet. And yet there was a time when that used to happen, right? And the second thing is, yeah, it's probably absurd that, there was ever a time that people thought that McDonald's was real food, right? So this is like the thing that I want you to think about is this question of, look how quickly our society shifts and changes. And because there was a time where it was very normal for people to pollute, and now it is crazy. It's absolutely absurd. So I want to give you a couple more examples for you to think about this, because you really want to start to anchor yourself in your own why of how it is that you are viewing you and your relationship to your work, and being able to really communicate that vision as a visionary of your company of, well, why do we exist, and what are we really making a stand for here as an organization? And some of the things for us is, I think it's absurd, right, that 80% of small businesses survive in their first year, and the longer that they're in business, after their second year and their 5 years, and once they get to the 10th year, that 70% of small business owners fail. So the longer, right? So the longer that people are in business, the worse off they actually are. And I think this is crazy, right? I personally, when I ask that question for myself, I think about things like this, and I think it's crazy, right? I think it's absolutely absurd that entrepreneurs that want to change the world have to beg for money and figure everything out on their own, and often sacrificing themselves in burnout to birth their vision to the world, right? And this is really, this is really my why of why do I exist? Why does my organization, 1MT, exist? Why do we even start this V agency? Is because of this one thing here, right? Is that I believe that the entrepreneur who wants to show up and service in the world should be supported, not have to stake it all and risk it all, their mental health, physical health, emotional health, so that they can really give to the world, right? It's insane, right? I think it's absurd that most accepted way to get a job is to go to college, right? And in that most accepted way, that 69% of students graduate with an average debt of $30,000, right? And on top of that, it's absurd that there's 45 million borrowers with $1.5 trillion in debt. Like, this is crazy that right now, this is the state of the world that we're in. And because of that, I get to ask myself, well, what's the change that I want to see in this world, and where do I want to go from here? So what does this actually look like in terms of being able to shift this, right? And when we think about vision, right? And I'm just giving you guys a prompt to giving this question of, what do I want to be absurd in 10 years? What do I really think is so crazy, so that one day, I want, for those of you that have kids, and even for those of you that don't, I want you to be, imagining a conversation with your future 10-year-old child, right? And you say to them, hey, there was a time that existed when you could walk around on the street and there was this really crazy metal box, and you would take these metal coins that had faces of these old people on them, and you would throw it into this metal box, and then you'd be able to have a phone conversation from anywhere on the street, right? And of course, what are we talking about, right? Talking about payphones, right? So, but I want you to imagine, this reality that exists where you said, hey, there was a time when, sex trafficking was at an all-time high, whereas, abuse was at an all-time high, whereas trauma was at an all-time high, where, people never even heard of men's work that existed in the world. And your kid looks at you and says, wow, that's crazy. And you say, yeah. And the reason why it's no longer like that is because my company existed. It's because I existed. It's because I decided to take a stand for it today. It's because I decided to change something today. And I decided that I want to make a difference, right? And that's really how I think that enough, as an entrepreneur, you want to really think about, well, what's this vision that I truly want to stand for? Because when you start to really start to expand your teams, and you start to say, hey, look, we're not here just to make money. We're here to make real change inside the organization. And, and that becomes one of the most powerful recruiting tools that really helps you differentiate between, your business and any other business that's out there. And hopefully you guys are starting to see, when I enroll, significant talent into organizations, it always starts with my why. It always starts with why we're starting. And for here, for here at the V agency and here at our parent company, 1MT, our mission, our vision for the change that we want to see in the world is that we want to completely change people's relationship to their work, right? And the reason why that's important to us is because what we've noticed is that people will feel disillusioned, even resentful of the companies that they have because they're focused on the wrong work, right? So this is why we're so passionate about let's get the things off of your plate. Let's delegate the things off of your plate. So you move more and more into your zone of genius so that you're able to fall back in love with your organization. You're more on your dharmic path. You're more on purpose with the work that you want to do, and you know what that actually looks like. So again, how do we actually do this, right? So if you haven't already, we're going to be giving you guys an exercise, and it's called the energy audit, because I do not believe in time management. I just believe in you auditing what is energetically draining and what is energetically pouring into you so that you just feel really good about the work that you're doing in your company, right? And if you imagine this for the people in your companies and the people that are on your teams as you guys are starting to build them, I'd imagine that you do not want to be paying someone that is not that is energetically misaligned to the work that they're doing, because then for the person that absolutely loves that work out there, they're gonna be paid one thing, and then the person that doesn't love the work, right? Who would you imagine would you have a greater output from, right? And the output, of course, when you look at that, is the person who actually loves the work, right? So the energy audits can be really powerful because it's also going to give you your hiring map and who to really hire next. And this is an exercise that you can run every 90 days with your team, every 6 months, and just make sure that you're really being aware of, hey, are people still doing things that they enjoy and love? Because I know that I'm paying my dollar either way. Right. And yeah, Ben, you nailed it. Right. I love my VA because he's passionate about the same things I am and gets a lot out of working with me, and vice versa. Right. So when you guys go through this process and you're really trying to figure out what to actually delegate, you're going to start to notice that there's 4 different categories. And the very first thing is really looking at, well, of all the things on my list, what are the things that I don't like and I'm not good at? And I call this a zone of incompetence, because you shouldn't be doing these things anyways, right? Then you have the things that you don't like and you are good at. Then you have things that you like and you are good at. And then oftentimes the way that you have any level of contrast is because you also know what you love and you're great at, which means these are the things that you, if you didn't get paid for them, you would do them anyways, right? You would do them anyways. So what's really powerful about this framework is that when you go through the energy audit and you start scoring everything it is that you're doing, we start to get an order of which we can start to delegate things off of our plate, right? So, the very first thing that we want to do is delegate the things that we don't like, we're not good at, because those are things that are probably the most energetically draining for us, period, right? And what's really beautiful about the things that you are good at is that these are the things that you can actually train someone on, so that even if they didn't have the competence and you're willing to train them, and you can train them, and because this is actually what your skill set is, and you can actually train them on it. And then you have the things that you like and you are good at. And then of course, then most of the time you will not want to actually get these things off your plate, or maybe you do, right? But then that often happens last. So this becomes the order at which you would actually start to get things off your plate. And again, if you haven't done the energy, well, just to check in, for all those of you that are on the call, how many of you have not done the audit so far, and how many of you have? And you just say, I have done it, I have not done it. If you just type in the chat. Okay, so Dom says she's done it. Talia says I did it, but want to do it again. Kimberly says not. Okay, great. Evolve says I do it weekly. Awesome. Okay, great. And then some of you, I imagine, are not going to answer no matter what. So welcome to the welcome to the call today. So with that, right? So with that, we have this exercise for you guys, and we're happy to give it to you. Just request it from Majesty, and guys, this is our goal, right? Our goal is to help you rip these things off of your plate so that you have a better relationship with your business, better relationship with your VA. You're able to delegate more things. You're better able to understand what's actually possible for you. So with that said, this kind of goes into, how do we build trust, right? How do we build trust, and how do we know if things are not going well with people in the organization. So what I want you to think about and what I want you to look at is really the relationship between people and process, right?